Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we'll go back a little bit to have a complete thing, but yeah, Al Desha Choyzer Meir. Okay, the same place where we started this morning, but we will go through it. The line begins Al Desha Choyzer Meir, 6 lines from the end of the top section of Kofayin Dalet. And the point is that after the Tzimtzum, the Gilui that comes after the Tzimtzum is not that which becomes embedded in the Tzimtzum. Rather, it reintroduces the oil before the Tzimtzum. The whole brightness and the reality of the oil Shelifnei HaTzimtzum. And that oil comes back, and that oil is the B'chinas Kiruv. B'chinas Kiruv, as we explained this morning at great length, and Akiva Marshall is the expert on that. B'chinas Kiruv means that it comes directly from its source. Loi b'chinas hakova, not in a manner of hakova, of being engrossed, engraved, and embedded in the tzimtzum. Canal, as we explained before, that after the tzimtzum there is choyzer v'meir. Ve'al kein, and therefore, hagilu she'achar hatzimtzum ha'harei homein ho'yer insof shelifnei hatzimtzum. The gilui that's found after the tzimtzum is of the same element, of the same quality of the Ein Sof Lifnei HaTzimtzum, shehu gam kin b'vchinas Ein Sof, k'nis k'liyil. It also continues to maintain the Ein Sof quality, the Ein Sof aspect. And now I want to reintroduce that principle. We said the oil gets reintroduced. Even though we said that the oil Lifnei HaTzimtzum cannot relate to world. Why? Because it does not have the element of Hamshach. It does not have the element of not being into being. It's Ein Sof. It reflects the Ein Sof directly.
Sorry, at this point, are we contrasting still the difference between Tzimtzum and the Parsa, or we're not? That's not really.
Right now, we're talking about the Tzimtzum per se.
Okay.
So Ein Lifnei HaTzimtzum.
But it seems like we were just talking about the Parsa, and now we're talking about the Tzimtzum. And I don't understand how we switched. No? I'm not totally off?
No, you're not fully off. You're fully off in the sense that you didn't follow in the continuation. The Parsa was brought in was brought in as a challenge to what we were saying. We were saying that the tzimtzum is that the ois achar tzimtzum is oil Kislev. Even though the ois achar tzimtzum, the tzimtzum is a more complete tzimtzum than the parsa. And in the parsa we say it's not the same way. How do we say the same thing about the tzimtzum? So we went into this detail for a moment, explaining the parsa, and explaining the great mile of the parsa, of how you have to have the mahus ha'oir. But after that, we bring back the principle that there are two elements in the oir. There is the mahus and there is the gilui. The mahus, yes, the parsa allows for the mahus ha'oir to be there, but the gilui is present more in the case of the tzimtzum than in the case of the parsa. Why? Because in the parsa there is hislapshus, there is akova, whereas in the tzimtzum it's not being hislapshus.
It's hislapshus in the world?
Slapshus in the tzimtzum.
There's no hislapshus in the tzimtzum, but in the world the light is hislapshus.
That's right. But the oil in essence remains the same.
Okay. Thank you.
It remains the same. So what it means that Chochmah is made in all over? Had je daar Chochmah?
Yes, the oil element there is much less gilui oil when it comes down to bina and to other yonim. But wherever there is that element of gilui oil, where there is gilui oil, it is the essential reality itself. We will again have a chance to re-emphasize a certain point. What is gilui oil? Again, so Hugankin bibchinas ein soif even after the tzimtzum.
Can I interrupt for a second, Rabbi Paltiel?
Yes.
Okay, so Akiva thinks he explained this to me today, but I don't think he did, meaning I didn't understand it. But again, this point confused me this morning. We're saying there's Gili Oyer. This is meaning in the Oyer that's Chayzer Meir.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're saying that this is already after the Tzimtzum and the Rishimu, where the Rishimu is a complete Hisalmus and Heder Oyer.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't matter, in other words. The Rishimu, despite the fact that it has this absolute effect, but what comes back is still called Gili Oyer.
Yeah.
So the Rishimu doesn't act. It's not like a filter on the Oyer Shlifnat Tzimtzum, right? It's not that this Oyer comes through this filter called the Rishimu. It's not a filter because it doesn't change it. Do you understand my question?
Yes, I understand the question. I understand the difficulty we're having here.
Okay, so you could explain to me my difficulty. I'm happy to have it explained.
And I'll be happy to find a way to explain it.
I guess my question is on
No,
the
I understand the question. That's clear. As I pointed out in the Moshel of the Rav and Talmud, when the Rav puts himself into the position of the Talmud, and he totally, so to speak, alleviates the seichel that he has. Now again, let us focus in. The seichel that he has, it's not, the seichel of the Rav flows directly from his rotzen, from the nefesh. He sees in the seichel not just the logic of it and the proofs it entails, but he sees what is the reality behind it, the chokhmah. Why is it real? How does that, the Rambam says, again, coming back to the very source, that's chokhmah. To sense that there is a motivation, that there is a first being, and that being, as we said, being precedes not being. That reality, this is what chokhmah recognizes. As we in the Rambam says in Tanya, that this is what chokhmah perceives. Why does chokhmah perceive it? Because chokhmah is a beetle, and chokhmah perceives the truth as it is. And so in the Rav, by him, I've explained many times, according to the way the Rambam presents it, the whole function of Chokhmah, of Seichel, is to show how everything that exists comes from this primary truth. How everything has a truth element. This is the Chokhmah. As you pointed out in many halachas, in halachas that we learned, that the halacha seems to be completely opposite from our intuitive view. And when you examine it, it says, hey, but that talks about the truth, about the godly truth. That's what it is. That's what chokhmah is. So now, the Rav has, as I said, has withdrawn his seichel. So that means that he does not have the oil seichel flowing directly from its source. And what does he have? He has the rishima. He has the end presence, which is just a metzias as such. Like we say in our Moshel of Seichel, 1 and 1 is 2 ones. This is what remains in Seichel Hara. But then when he goes to teach it to the Talmud, and he knows that this is the means by which he can begin to teach the Talmud, he shows him 1 and 1, the 2 ones. And then begins to elaborate on this. And ultimately, the Talmud will realize that it's not 2 ones, but this is 2. So there's some kind of a relationship between them. And slowly, he opens up his mind and opens up his own perception of the source of this. Now, the important point over here is this Chayzer Omeir. Where does the Chayzer Omeir come into this? So we explained. And the Chayzer Omeir has an element at the beginning Kiruv. What is the point in this? When the Rab looks around and he sees the Rishima, which is 1 and 1 is 2 ones, he says, what am I going to teach the child? What am I going to teach him for? What's the point? There's no seichel in it. But then, when he reverts back and thinks of how did he come to this Rishima, to this bottom point, he realizes that he came to it from the grand gilui of seichel, the way it is believable, the way it is flowing, shining directly from the Rotzen. Says, no, it is worthwhile. It's a wonderful thing to teach. I really want to influence the Talmud with this great oil, with this great insight. Even though the method by which I have to do it is a very low level method, but I will teach it to him, and and he will be able to see through that the oil from which it comes, the oil that gives it to reality. So the Rishimo definitely has an effect. Now, but what is he teaching him? He's teaching him that which is contained in the Rishimo. But what is the spirit behind it? The spirit behind it, what solicits this teaching is the union that he wants to give him his truth. This Choseh Beheir. Therefore, the Metzius that he is giving him is the Metzius of the Rishim. But he is telling him right away, he should know that this Metzius of the Rishim, that 1 on 1 is 2 ones, the real truth, what? The real truth behind it is not the physical truth. The real truth behind it is Hashem Echad. This is what he's teaching. What's going on here? Who is saying hello? Baruch, you there? Baruch, are you still there?
Rabbi Paltiel?
Yeah.
Sorry, my phone connection with the conference room was lost, and I stopped hearing you when you said, "What is?" He's teaching him the Metzius of the Rishimu, but.
All right, but now you're back?
Yes.
All right, Baruch Hashem. He's teaching him through the Metzius of the Rishimu, but what is the impetus behind it? It is the oil Atzmi that brought him to the Rishimu. And the important thing is, this is the Kirov element. Why is he teaching him that which is contained in the Rishimu? Because he wants him to know what's contained in the Rishimu? No. He wants him to know where that Rishimu came from. What is the truth behind it? And the Rishimu is but a means by which he reintroduces him to his entire truth. So if he did not have the Tzimtzum, he would not find these oisies of the Rishim, this method, because he would not have the perception. Where is the Talmud? The Talmud doesn't know all of this. He has no idea. He doesn't know how to relate to it. Doesn't know how to talk to him. So he retracted them all the whole oil, and he sees how this reflects itself in the Metzius of the world. Like I said, 1 on 1 is 2 ones.
And once that's happened, the Rishimu has served its purpose, basically.
The Rishimu has served its purpose and continues to serve the purpose.
In what way does it continue?
In what way? That this remains the conduit. This is the means by which the whole oil flows through.
Even after more and more of it is revealed?
Even after more of it is revealed, because what he is revealing is the actual oil. In other words, the emphasis of it there is not listen to what the Rishimu is telling you, but listen to what the original oil is telling him, and the Talmud is able to understand it through the services or through the means of the Rishimu. The Lashon, when it's talking about the Rishima, is that the Rishima contains everything that the world will ever need. Everything for the world. But then, when the Rishima goes into Hashpor, that is being, it creates worlds, we don't take it only from the Rishima. We take it from the oil that created the Rishima. The oil that from which the Rishima was derived. And he's giving it to him between a skiro, because he wants to give him himself. And therefore, in this oil, even though when it comes to the Rishima, he's taking the mitzvahs of the Rishima, but this is not what he's giving him. Not the mitzvahs of the Rishima. He's giving him the oil that he originally had before the whole Tzimtzum. And now he is able to give him this oil through this Rishim. In other words, you're able to give him oil Ein Sof from the perspective of where there is no oil at all, which is the Rishim.
The element of Kiruv is wanting it to connect to the grander source.
The Kiruv is bringing himself into it. Like I mentioned, I always ask a question. When the Rab teaches the Talmud, AyinBase, does he want to teach him AyinBase, or does he want him to teach him the Torah?
So he wants to teach him the Torah, and this is bringing himself into it by.
That's right. Teaching the Torah. This is what gets him all excited. Why does he want to teach him AyinBase? What's in the AyinBase? This is his teaching.
And that's in contrast to Parsa, where it's the neshama is not saying to the guf, see it my way. Let's live like I live. It's not like that by Parsa and the nefesh enlivening the body.
In the Parsa, the oil becomes embedded, and you don't give him the pure oil the way it was before. You give him the oil by his lapsus. When you tell him the goof is alive, not the neshama is alive. That's his lapsus. The goof is alive. That's his lapsus.
Does he want to give him the teaching as well? Let's have the teaching. The teaching that the Talmud does grasp at first.
The whole phenomenon of teaching, like we said, the teacher only gives the Talmud oil. He does not give him this seichel per se. He does not put a head on his shoulders. It's not his lapsus making the Talmud into a Talmud. The Talmud is a Talmud. And he's giving him oil haseichel. Essentially, in the Rav and Talmud, the Rav and the Talmud remain two separate entities. That's a chesed, you would say. Father and son are one entity. That's a mile. But then the father gives the son his gashmius presence, a completely different element. The Rav and the Talmud. The Rav gives the Talmud. And, let me start back. The father gives his son his real presence, a complete Metzius. And becomes a separate Metzius. The Rav gives the Talmud himself, the Oyer that the Rav stands for. The Oyer that the Talmud cannot even fully comprehend. And that's what he gives him. How does he give it to him? He's mitzamtzum and so forth. Because the oil that he's giving him, why is he teaching him what he's teaching him? Is because he sees in it the real, the ultimate truth, and this is why he's teaching him. And this is what he wants the Talmud ultimately to know and to understand. That's called the P'chinas Kiruv.
Is there any way to teach without Bechinas Kiruv? That's the definition of teaching, in other words.
That's the definition of Hashpah. Teaching, not Bechinas Kiruv. Like I said, when a teacher teaches a mashpia, is mashpia two different things. He teaches because never this person doesn't know AyinBase. Let me give him AyinBase. So that he's teaching him from the perspective of the Talmud. The Talmud is missing this thing. Let me fill his need. Hashpah is a pshat that is not mashpia because he is poor, he is ignorant. He's mashpia because he's got something very worthy, and he wants to bestow it, to reveal it. So then the impetus of the hashpah comes from the mashpia, because because of the oil of the enormous significance in what he wants to be mashpia. And that means he must be himself.
Or stooped him. What's pushing him?
What's pushing him is he wants this great oil to be all over, to be himself.
What's this element of his giving himself? Isn't he sort of isn't he like
giving
a
his
channel?
truth, not giving him, giving himself a care. Himself remains a separate thing.
Mm-hmm.
All of this is a mushal for the Ayin Seif and how it's Chayzer V'Heir.
That's right. And yes. And the Chayzer V'Heir is such that it is B'chinas Kiruv to the point that what you get after the Tzimtzum is you get the similar thing that preceded it. Mamash Ayin from Ein Sof. And what is Ein Sof? We said, why is oil Ein Sof? Why is the oil Ein Sof? Because it comes from the Ein Sof. Let us go back to our tangible notion that we all understand. You have the host and the guest. And the host serves the guest his breakfast, or his lunch, or his dinner. What is intended in this, the dinner or the presence of the host? Why is he giving the dinner? Because the guest is hungry? Or because he wants to show him himself? He wants to give him his own presence. So we all understood that his presence, this is what it's all about. And you take that away, there's nothing. But there is the dinner. That's giving the reshima without the oil. Without the oil.
dinner without the host.
The dinner without the host.
And is this what the teacher who's not a mashpia is doing?
This is what the teacher with what mashpia is doing. This is what we said before. We said what David HaMelech said, and the Mishnah says, David, kiva mechasebot shnei dvarim bilvad. That's what Hashem said, bilvad. They were just two dvarim. They had nothing to do with the source of the dvarim, with the chayes, with the oil. This is Nebuch, what happens in the modern techniques of teaching, where they teach formula, where they teach mathematics supposedly, but they give the student a formula. You should know that the resolution to this problem is apply this formula, but they don't know what this formula is about. It doesn't matter. Just apply this formula. So the whole thing, what he's giving him is the bottom line solution. With this, he can go out into the world, but it doesn't brighten his world. Huh?
He doesn't know what it
He doesn't know what it means. It doesn't brighten his world. He can walk in the dark and know his way around. It's not real hashpah. It's not seichel.
Is there a place for this kind of teaching, or this is simply useless?
There is a place in the time of teaching. If somebody is in the dark and you want to help him to get out of the darkness, Poshet to come out of his dilemma. Yes, you get him out of his dilemma no matter what. If someone is sick, you give him medicine. You have to get him back to health.
And then you give him a shpah.
And then you give him mashpah. But ultimately, you want to give him mashpah, you should be healthy.
Ultimately, when you give him a shpah, he should be healthy, meaning that the hashpah should result in him being healthy, or he should be healthy before he gets the hashpah. He has to be healthy in order to receive the hashpah.
Yes.
He has to be healthy to receive the hashpah.
Right. That's what he said. He has to have a cup. You can't put a head on his shoulder. But he has a head. The Rebbe should give him a head. And by your hashpah, you opening up his mind, and he illuminates it, and he takes and gets the brightness of it.
But he couldn't get the brightness without the initial, whatever you want to call it, knowledge, kalim, tools, and that is like the Rishimo. Is that true?
Yeah, but that's true. I mean, this is now what he has to give it to him piecemeal in little bits.
Mm.
Let's take. This is. It's true. It's a very subtle, difficult thing. There was the Frierdiker Rebbe. There are many instances where he fought very, very, outright wars with various modern techniques, aspects, especially here in America. So here, the one of the things that the Rebbe fought, mamish tooth and nail, is the modern way of teaching AyinBase, teaching Hebrew how to read Hebrew. The additional way, we all know, we teach it to a child Aleph, Base, Gimel, Aleph. Then we teach him Komets Aleph or Komets Base, and he goes through a whole series of practices just reading Komets Aleph or Komets Base. And every time he has a Komets Aleph, he says Komets Aleph or Komets Base. He doesn't say oh, bo, go. He repeats the entire structure. And then they developed a modern technique where they avoid this whole thing, and you go straight to Obo Vogo. And they have proven, in fact, that the child learns to read much more quickly than the traditional way, than in traditional way. And this is where the modern, Hebrew schools sprang up, and there are all kinds of, especially I'm familiar with. I'm sure there is all over here. I've not been in Montreal. I remember there was a whole system of schools. They're very successful in getting kids very quickly onto reading Hebrew. And the Rebbe fought tooth and nail and said, "You're robbing the child of Kedushas Ha'isiyos." The child has to know that when you learn as an aleph, it's not an aleph. It's not a means to an end. It's a reality. It's part of Torah. You have to have the whole thing. So here you have a very vivid example. If you were going to teach him that's the Rishima, you would teach him Obo Vogo. But you are telling him, no, don't teach him that. Teach him the whole essence of it. But what's in the essence? It's all a means to an end. No. Teach him the essence. There is, each element itself has an essence. Because it's Lashon HaKodesh, teach him the essence. And it takes a little longer because he's learning the whole Torah as he's going through. He's not learning a tool, he's learning the real thing. So it's taking longer. But then he has a complete, as I said, to begin, finish with the AyinBase he had learned, he had gone through learning Torah. We can have, if you wish, I hate to spell the whole time, but a secular example to this. It's an interesting thing just occurred to me. We have here in America, Ford developed this what's it called?
Assembly line?
The assembly line method. Extremely efficient way of producing complex machines. At every line, at every station, they do one operation. They have no idea what happened before, what happened after. They don't see the final product, they're not interested in the final product. Then you have the Japanese system, where they have one team that takes a car from beginning to end. They're all working on the whole car. Okay. It takes longer to produce the car. It's much less efficient. But their cars are reliable. They don't have what's called a lemon. They don't have a lemon. A car is a car. What's a lemon? A lemon is very simple. If the guy stands here and his job is to screw in this screw, put in this bolt, and he doesn't have an idea what this bolt, in overall, he's not excited about the total product. So if the bolt is put in crooked, the bolt is not all the way up, so big deal. Let it go. This is what happens. He doesn't have the oil if they are tzimtzum. He doesn't have the reality of it.
It just doesn't make better cars, it makes better people.
So this is like Rishimu without the Chayzer V'Heir.
What?
This is like having the Rishimu without the Chayzer V'Heir.
That's right. The Chayzer V'Heir. Yeah, you do this, and eventually a car comes out, and you're not aware what actually happens. And it's interesting if you would observe. This is my own observation. I don't know if I'm right or not, but I think that those who, the final touches, now those who put in the skin of the car, generally the skin is perfect. It looks perfect, it's bright, it's beautiful. But what's doing inside, it is not reliable at all. Because they're not into it. They're not producing a car, they're putting in a bolt. Okay.
Wouldn't that make some people experts in some particular task? And where if you're going to be an expert in every single task, you're not going to be as high of a level of an expert. But if you have one person, his job is the bolt of the door. So he's going to be the best bolter in the entire assembly line. Now, but somebody else who's doing the skin is not going to be able to do his job as well.
A human being is not a bolter. A machine is a bolter. A human being is a human being. He has to have the full sense of what he's doing. Otherwise, he's not producing anything. Looking for shortcuts, there's no impetus. A human being, everything that he does, has the full human spirit behind it.
That's what I meant by it makes a better human being.
Yeah, it makes him better.
You train people just to be on an assembly line. They act that way in the rest of their life too. Very
Okay,
often.
maybe that's true.
Charlie Chaplin made fun of the assembly line in a movie.
Yeah. All right. So this may be also a kind of an illustration of this Indian on a lower level, but there is definitely truth to it.
So it's illustrating what can happen if there's no, if there's no.
Okay.
And by Kamatz Aleph A, even though you break it down to just one letter at a time, that.
But you give them the whole thing.
Each one, because each letter is holy and whole.
That's right. You give them the whole thing. You say, this is real. This is not a means to an end.
And an Aleph by itself is real. It's not just an ois that's part of a davar. It's not just a letter that's part of a word.
Yes, of course.
It's a whole. It's not just the bolt, right? It's a whole piece by itself. Even though the child's learning Kriya, the Aleph by itself to the child is not much utility. You know,
It's not. You're not teaching him utility. You're teaching him Torah.
So so it's not.
So he has a little piece of Torah.
He has a little piece. He's not on the way to Kriya. He's within Aleph.
That's right.
He's just there.
That's right. He's a little piece of Torah. Exactly right.
Interesting. And if you go to Baga, then it's like you're trying to jump towards some goal of Kriya.
That's
and
right.
you're
That's right.
leaving
The whole
behind.
thing is insignificant. That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Becoming a bolter.
Yeah.
And then, that's like in our morsel of AyinBase. AyinBase itself, he says, Kedushas Hoishis. The Rebbe says, you can't rob the children of Kedushas Hoishis. It's Hoishis. Every Hoishis, it represents Kedush. You give him a real thing. And we see children, you won't see it in modern schools, you see children go to shul, sit next to their daddies, the tati is davening, and they're learning they're reading the AyinBase. And they're just as excited and more than the tati. You're sitting there, you can sit for hours doing that. It's my high to see.
Yeah. You don't see kids going, the kids don't do that.
Of course not. Because we teach them the real thing.
I didn't even remember exactly what it
All right.
was.
So this is quite revolutionary, but I think we are getting someplace to understand how Oiv Afara Tzimtzum is also Bli Gvul. It's also Bli Gvul, it's also Ein Sof. And I've explained what is Ein Sof. Why is oil Ein Sof? Because the oil is made up, because the oil is there because of the etzem. Oil and etzem go together. It's not only etzem has oil, as we explained all the way back.
And here
This is why the oil, and we have that same oil.
The way to think of that is the mashal of the host, because the light itself is very much just for the kav, just for world. It's like a different mitzias, really. But no, we're saying it has that infinity, and we think of the
When the host serves dinner,
yeah,
the dinner is like a kav, that's a mitzias.
dinner's like
But what is the point in this dinner?
So even though the world is made up from kav, from this very limited light, somehow the presence of
It's
the
Ein Sof. He has the host with him. This is the difference between Kedusha and Klippa. Klippa says, you gave me dinner. It's wonderful. Kedusha says, no, I'm not taking the dinner without you.
Before you said the dinner was the shimu. That's the same thing as
The
the
dinner
kav?
is like, it's the representation of the Shema itself.
The kav comes after the shimu.
But
Kav comes after the shimu.
the oil that comes as a result is the oil of the mahus, of the yatzim. All right, I think that's sufficient. כן, הגילו שיחד הצמצום הרי הוא מעינו אין סוף לפני הצמצום, שהוא גם כן בבחינס אין סוף כנ"ל, וגם יש בו כוח עצמוס. And then also in addition to that, or as a part of this truth, there is also the koyach ha'asmus in Meshikotsu B'gez HaKedesh Hanal, the oir hakav hu me'ein hamoyer. Thus means he has koyach ha'asmus. Oir hakav is me'ein hamoyer. What is the moyer who bechinas mehusei v'atzmusei? This is the moyer is the bechinas mahusei atzmusei, the mahusei atzmus of alakus, atzmus. And as we explained, just now mentioned, oyer is present only in atzmus. This is what oyer is. Therefore, if there is oyer, it represents atzmus. Ad shegam ha'oyer, k'mei shemislabesh b'kelim, even to the extent that even the oyer, as the oyer is further processed, so to speak, further mislabesh, until it's mislabesh b'kelim da'atzilus. And now what we have is oyer ha'chesed, oyer ha'gvura, and so forth, oyer that has, so to speak, it can be grasped in a mitzias form, chesed and gvura. Hareu b'bchinas ein soif lehis pashtusei. It still has the element of ein soif lehis pashtusei, that it's his pashtus, its effect is bli gvul. And why is its effect bli gvul? Because it is representative of the etzem. V'yihu v'garmei yichad, and it says in Atzilus is yihu v'garmei yichad, that he means the oil and soif. Garmei is the kelim. Is chad is one, libre b'hem v'al yodom, to be able to create through the kelim me'ayin liyesh, from ayin into yesh. And I'll explain this in a moment. V'zehu lefi, and that is lefi sheho'er hu me'ein ho'etzem k'mishikos of shom. This is all loshon from time. Me'ayin liyesh, the kelim are able to create from ayin liyesh because the oil is me'ein ho'etzem, because the oil is of the etzem element. Ayin liyesh will also give us exposure to this, to what the Ayin of the etzem is. let's go back to our host and guest. I think it's a very successful illustration, motion. If the host is hosting this guest because the guest is hungry, he's benefit from the food. It's not me'ayin liyesh. There's a reason for this whole relationship, and it comes from what? From a sense of chesed, a sense of rachamim, some kind of specific quality in the host. It is not an expression of the host per se. I feel for you, I feel your pain, let me assuage it. I want to do you a favor. Whatever, it has a specific presence, mitzias. So then it's not yesh me'ayin. It's not that there is a clear cause for this relationship, and the clear cause has its limits. That's it. He does not elevate. He does not elevate the guest to the level of the host. Does not give the guest a sense of the oil of the brightness of this relationship. There isn't. But if we talk in terms of the finer element in this, push it on the human level, and I want to stay on the human level because that we already understand. The finer element of this, the relationship, the sense of a true relationship. And I want to have your company. And I want to give him my presence, I want to have your company. There is no specific element it's not for the purpose of discussing some business deal or discussing some personal feelings, personal experience, just to be in your company. Which is like the Indian from Yesh Me'ayin. Now this whole setup has no definitive element. And you say, what is the purpose of it? And the truth is, you can't even explain it. You only know one thing, that if the guest will pick up the dinner and pack it up and walk out, he's not a human being. And if the host will leave the guest to eat his dinner, he doesn't have the human element. He has everything. He's kind and good and so, but he doesn't have the exclusively human element. And I explained many times. This is a very important thing to remember, because for us in general and to understand Chassidus in particular, the human element, this is the godly truth in the world. This is what makes the world worthwhile. Hashem created the human being. Hashem said, "Pru'urvu, be fruitful and multiply. Umilas ha'aretz, fill the earth with hipshu and capture it." Why didn't you want human beings to capture the world? What's wrong with the world? The animals roaming and ruling the world? Because Hashem wanted to bring godliness everywhere in the world. The human being represents a godly quality. If it behaves like a human being. And this is the pshat, that the oil has the quality, we see how far it goes. That even in Olam Hazeh there is an element of Yesh Me'ayin, there is an element of Ein Sof. Because the truth is, this little episode of the host and the guest, there is no way you can explain it in worldly terms. What's transpiring over here? There's some kind of a sense of a truth that is beyond world. In world, everything has to have some kind of a benefit. What benefit? What transpired over here? There's no way to explain it. And the reason that it's present in the world is because ultimately the oil, the oil eliki that is originally in the world, that initiated the creation of the world, filters through and is present in the reality of the world. And this is the Ayin, that even on the human level, even the Goyim Lahavl, also have Sheva mitzvahs when they have Sheva mitzvahs. What are mitzvahs? Mitzvahs coming directly from the Meirish. You cannot correlate mitzvahs to animals. It wouldn't make any sense at all. Because they have no relationship to it. Not because they don't have seichel to know what to do. You can train animals to do anything. But they don't have the element of mitzvah. They don't have the sense to relate to the source of the world. They can relate to the world. Mitzvah relates to the source of the world. And a goy is able to recognize one thing, that the world didn't make itself. And there is something, therefore there's a source. Which means there's a reality. As we always point out, anything that's pre-planned, it's not the result of some kind of an existing condition, of cause and effect, but it's pre-planned, has a sense of reality. It's done initially. I want to do it, not because there is something that is pressing, like you're hungry. That has a sense of reality. And this is what I said at the end. Because the oil is me'en ho'etzem. What is the pshat? What is the? And I pointed out what meant me'en ho'etzem. Before we said me'en ho'moyer. We said me'en ho'etzem. Because it's me'en ho'moyer, and therefore ultimately it is me'en ho'etzem. What is etzem? Etzem does not have an explanation why it's here. What kind of mitzvah is it? It doesn't have a presence. This is why it can create yesh me'ayin. A mitzvah of a presence that doesn't have an explanation. What is it filling? Why is it here? It's here because it's here. Because it has a truth element inherent in its presence. Okay, let's finish this. We can stay on this another 3 weeks, and every time we revisit it, it'll be a little bit more. But I think we're stopping right here. Im kein hare klolus ho'er. Therefore, we have come to the conclusion, to realization that we see that klolus ho'er, which means again, klosa means oir overall, oir in general. Wherever the oir is found, at whatever level it's found. Oir, gam k'mishu mislabesh ba'atzilus. Even the oir at the level where it's mislabesh, in kelem da'atzilus. And it becomes definitive oir ha'chesed, oir ha'gvura, and teferes, and so forth. It has specific presences. It is oir, hu b'chinas oir atzmi. It is nevertheless a yin from oir atzmi. Avraham Avinu, he was his Avraham Avinu, his avodah was, his way to bring a lakus into the world was through the midas hachesed. His midas hachesed, I said, to bring a lakus into the world. It was not a human kindness. He had a feeling for the wayfarer, or whatever it is. And in other words, out of kindness, and I want to assuage your pain, your hunger, whatever it is. This is not. Midas HaChesed means Midas HaChesed, the Avraham, is the pshat that there is a godly present, a godly truth in the world, and it has to be recognized. Where do you see the godly truth in the world? Where do you see godness in the world? In the infinity, in the fact that there is chesed, and that there is infinite chesed in the world. This is where you see the godliness. There is no restraint. Everybody can, and everything can benefit from it. In other words, it's chesed, but it's chesed like yesh miyayin, without a reason. It's not being calculated. It's not being justified. Like it says, Avraham Avinu, when Hashem told him, you're going to have Yitzchak, he said, Lu Yishmoel Yichil Fonech. Halavai Yishmoel should live before. Should live. Yichil should live before you. And what Yishmoel should do, Tshuva and Yishmoel. Avraham Avinu was satisfied with having Yishmoel. Now, how is Ishmael a substitute for Yitzchak? Because Midas HaChesed knows no distinction. And this is how, this is representative, so to speak, of Chesed Bli Gvul, of the godly element. Yitzchak, he was digging wells, this is from Gvura, breaking through barriers and digging wells of water. The Plishtim, they stopped up the wells that Avraham Avinu built and so forth. They stopped them up. Yitzchak was forced to move, to evacuate. You know the story. He was forced to evacuate. Before he evacuated from Plishtim, from Grod, and he was no longer going to be benefiting from any of these wells, he made sure to reopen these wells before he evacuated. What's the point? You're opening the wells for your enemies? No, if there's a breakthrough and there's a flow of water, it has to be going.
chesed.
Huh?
He
has
said
to be open.
Reinstated the chesed.
Huh?
You reinstated the chesed.
You reinstated the Gevura element, and you broke through the Helem, the Hester. Therefore, it has to stay open. Yitzchak's Aveda was Gevura.
But you're saying that he opened them so that they should be for somebody. That they shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be stuffed
they
up.
Shouldn't be stuffed up. But it's also that's what he means by it's a chesed. Because it doesn't recognize.
I understand. And you're saying it was not
limitation.
No, but his union was that the hell and the hester in the world should be broken. He was being driven away from them. And later when they came to him, he said, "Why did you come to me? You drove me out of your place." He didn't become concerned, he didn't become a friend of theirs. But
it's Gevura Sheba Chesed.
It's Gevura Elakis. All right. Oh boy. I thought it would take me 5 minutes. It took 10 minutes. Okay, I apologize. All right.
Gute Nacht, Rabbi Paltiel.
Gute Nacht, Koltov.
Also the Meisers for a Benny podcast. We still really know the Meisers.
Way to discern. Ooh, thank you, Tati, for letting me learn, letting me earn, and taking my turn. I know you know one day I'll return. Ooh, the favors deserved, 'cause of your word, even kind.